Could you help me to understand your understanding of the latest decision made by the National People's Congress regarding the legislation of national security issues related to Hong Kong?
The purpose of this national security law for Hong Kong is really to ensure, first of all, that the one country two system cannot be compromised by terrorist act, by mobsters' violent actions. And secondly, it also ensures that the secession of the country and the subversion of the government cannot take place. Thirdly, it would not allow foreign power or bodies to interfere with Hong Kong's internal affairs. In other words, to instigate, to plan, to teach the young people to do all kinds of illegal activities. And last but not least, to fight against terrorism. We needed that kind of protection. We need to know what is happening in Hong Kong, and at least we can take some precautions so that it doesn't get out of hand. I'm afraid that at the present moment, things have got out of hand. A normal person like me, a retiree, when I want to go to a shopping mall during weekend, in the past I can go whichever shopping mall I like. Now I dare not. I will try to find out from the news which shopping mall have a lot of people in black, because they are going to cause trouble and I don't want to be caught in trouble. When I walk on the street, if I come across them, I will keep my mouth shut, because just in case I said something that is disagreeable with them, they will hit me, harm me. Our freedom, our human right, our freedom of expression, my right to go to any place in Hong Kong that I feel I want to go, these are all compromised because of their so-called pro-democracy and freedom movement. But it is not. I have to tell you, it is not a pro-democracy or seeking freedom. Their freedom is the freedom for them only. Everybody else has to give way to what they want to do.
What exactly is the legal process for this decision to become a legislation? What are some of the processes that the public needs to understand? And what is the time frame? Who are the most important players in a way, in pushing forward the whole process and eventually implementing, as you earlier suggested, this piece of legislation?
The Standing Committee will consult the Hong Kong government and the Hong Kong Basic Law Committee. The Hong Kong Basic Law Committee consists of half of the members from Hong Kong. So both the government and the Basic Law Committee are venues for views, different kinds of views, to be conveyed to the Standing Committee in the process of making the law. And after the law has been made and introduced into Annex 3 and promulgated in Hong Kong, I personally think that I believe that the organization which have to carry out the law and also to pass judgment will be the local police, that is the law enforcement agencies, and the courts of Hong Kong. In the past, under the rule of the British, we actually have a fairly large group of people working under the political section. There's about 2,000 to 3,000 people. And what they do is they collect all kinds of information, intelligence, to protect the security of the government and the people. So this body was disbanded about 3 years before the return of Hong Kong to China. And Ever since then, there has been no such organization. So the Hong Kong government is actually not in a position to know what is happening in the territory because they don't have this intelligence. Their intelligence is more on criminal act rather than infiltration, succession, subversion, terrorist, and all these things. We needed that kind of information.
Mrs. Fan, one of the things people are very eager to know is whether this piece of legislation, after the whole process, will diminish the hope of one country system or actually abide by the principles of one country, two systems.
Well, what is one country, two systems? The two system is the capitalist system in Hong Kong vis-a-vis the socialist system in mainland China. There is not going to be any change in this. The other important part is Hong Kong has been given, delegated the power of making our own laws by the Legislative Council, governing Hong Kong on all internal affairs by the Hong Kong SAR government, and judicial independence with the right of court of a final appeal. These are not in any ways compromised by the national security law. National security is for the whole country. Every inch of land of China must be covered by the same national security. Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy and our ability to govern ourselves in most of the areas will remain as it is delegated to us through the Basic Law. Some people are worried, after this national security law, our human right will be compromised. Well, let me tell you, that is not true. Because in the decision of the National People's Congress, the first item is to ensure that the right and privileges of Hong Kong people will continue. And then in the Basic Law, we have articles which ensures that the freedom of expression, freedom of traveling, movement, freedom of speech, all these are protected.
After this decision, after even the SAR government adopted this law and say, let's go ahead with it, how will Hong Kong repair its wounds as a result of political division, as a result of what happened over the past year, as a result of what is still going on right now in the streets, as a result of a very divided society? Mrs. Fan, how is Hong Kong going to do that?
First of all, I think we like to go back to our normal life, where we can work and play as we used to. Secondly, the economy of Hong Kong has already suffered a very, very big blow. So for Hong Kong's economy to recover, it will take some time. And we will have to work on it. We are determined to live the life we want to live. We want one country, two systems. And that system, as prescribed by the Basic Law, will continue on to work in Hong Kong. We will make sure, because it is our daily life, it is our livelihood. You know, for people who are not in Hong Kong and who are making all kinds of comments about Hong Kong, they don't have to pay any price if Hong Kong goes down the drain. But for a person living in Hong Kong, we are paying all the price for all their so-called ideology, or so-called dominance of the world, or so-called democracy which destroys democracy itself. I hope that they will understand. But if they don't, we will still go on, because we are determined to make our home a livable place.
details about the national security law will gradually roll out in the coming months, but the political division in Hong Kong could definitely complicate matters. How can its legislative council and government proceed in retrospect? What went wrong in 2003 when an Article 23 legislation was docked but failed to be passed? Rita Fan has the answers. How can we expect the Legislative Council to be able to proceed? And how can we expect the Legislative Council and the Hong Kong government to be able to proceed from there? Ms. Fan.
After the government had proclaimed the law, then if people contravene the law, then our law enforcement agencies will comprehend that person, and our Secretary for Justice will decide whether there's sufficient evidence to prosecute. And if they do, then the case will go to the Court of Hong Kong. And the Court of Hong Kong will look at this law, which is part of Hong Kong's law, and decide whether a crime has been committed and what sentence should be passed. The normal citizen of Hong Kong have nothing to worry about. So therefore, the most of us, I would say 99% of the Hong Kong people, really, this law is only protecting us. It's not going to hurt us in any ways, but it will hurt those people who are infringing on our freedom, on the very core of democracy in Hong Kong, and on our human right. You
were in the Legislative Council yourself. What was the situation like in 2003 when Article 23 was being worked on, and also people tried to come up with some kinds of legislation, just as what we are discussing now from the National People's Congress? What went wrong? When you look at that in retrospect, how would you reflect upon those days, Mrs. Fan?
Well, in those days, everything is peaceful. People who are against the implementation of Article 23 went on a peaceful protest, and they claim they have 500,000 people. Other accounts says it's much less, but it doesn't really matter. It is peaceful. And then when the then government actually made a number of amendments in view of the reaction from the community. So everything was set to go. And suddenly, one of the political parties in the pro-establishment group, the Liberal Party, decided that they are going to abstain instead of supporting the draft bill. So the government do not have sufficient vote. So therefore, the government withdraw the bill. And that is what happened. But everything from step 1 to step 10 is all very peaceful. Sometimes there's a lot of sort of strong language being used, but there was never any sort of bodily contact, which we are seeing today. Oh, by the way, one thing I think your international audience should know. The rioters, the black mobsters, they say openly that they want to pull Hong Kong down the drain. They want us to die together. That's what they said openly and in black and white.
How should we understand, especially for our international viewers, why from 2003 until today there has not been successful work yet on the Article 23? After all, it's already 17 years. Why over that long stretch of time so hard that we have to do something this time from the national level?
It is because that the opposition have successfully stigmatized the Article 23. They have put all kinds of false accusation, and they use scare tactics in the community. So with this kind of constant brainwashing, many of the people in Hong Kong feels that Article 23 is going to be very draconian. It's going to take away my freedom. It is going to cause me trouble. Actually, it is not. But our government has always been trying to make a mutually cordial atmosphere so that we could discuss Article 23 in a logic, reasonable, and courteous way. But that's never going to happen, as we can see now. But they have been doing that for the past 17 years, and that's why Article 23 never come back to the Legislative Council after that trial in 2003.